Hey there, good evening, and welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're here, and our Wednesday night favorites for this episode will be my 25 favorite album covers. I was going to break it into like different genres, and maybe I should have because I had too many, and the ones I pulled were all pretty much hard rock ones. So unfortunately that's what happens. So I've decided what I'll do is, instead of doing a separate one for each genre, too confusing, I'm just going to do one top 25 favorite album covers, one per group, no more than one per group, and then I'm going to do a second part episode for another 25, and again it'll be one per group. That way we don't get, because there's some groups here, let's face it, have some amazing album covers. They could easily have 3 or 4, maybe even 5, and that's just too much dominance for me. So I just pick one per group, and then I'll do another part probably in a few weeks or something, with 25 more. So none of these are actually, I guess I could have put them in an order that was my favorite to least favorite, but it's really nitpicking. Like, it's all close. Like, there's nothing really dominating and nothing really not dominating. I just wanted to give a heads up to these album covers, which I like quite a bit, and I basically just put them in alphabetical order, and we'll go from, instead of going from A to Z, because I'm kind of different that way. I want to go from Y to A. In this case, it won't be no Z, but no, Y to A. And I do apologize if I'm rubbing my eyes sometimes or coughing. I have allergies towards pollen, and it's May, and this is usually the worst month for it. I'm actually not feeling too bad today, though, so I might get away with it. So without further ado, we're going to start. I'm not going to do any honorable mentions because I'm going to do a second episode to include 25 more, because I could have, to be honest with you, I could have easily put 50 albums in this, and I wouldn't have stretched it too far. Okay, so 25 of my favorite progressive rock albums. Start again. 25 of my favorite album covers. Okay. Yeah, I think the pollen's gone to my brain. So, and we're going to do this in reverse order, and rather than do A to Z, the actual reason I'm doing this is because they're already stacked in that way. So if I have to, I'll have to switch them all around and start all over again. So I don't really want to do that. So we're going to do from Y to A this time, and just kind of talk about the album cover and what it is I like about it, and how long I've been enjoying the art of this particular album. Okay, so let's get going. So we'll start with, of course, Yes. This could have probably been one of my favorites too. I've always really, really liked this kind of artwork on this particular cover especially. I mean, he does have other stuff that's really, really good too, but, and you know, you get this little snake on the back too. I just think that this one reminds me of a book that I once read called The Tapestry. Very, very reminiscent of that, and the artwork was somewhat similar to it. Yeah, really, really catchy art. I know it's a little dull with the black, with the kind of gray colors, but the intricacy of it is great. I mean, he's got other stuff that's much brighter, but for some reason I decided that I like this one the best today. So there you go, Yes, and the Relayer album. The next one up is an album that is on my playlist, and I've been listening to it quite a bit, and I really like this band. They're fairly new to me, but this artwork is really good, and it's Wobbler, if you prefer, Hinterland. It's like the wood of a tree that's coalesced into a face. And it's really great, and it actually continues on the back cover too, which is kind of neat. I like it quite a bit. I wish they didn't put this stupid stripe in the middle. Kind of ruins it, but anyways, this is a fairly modern one too. I think 2015, but definitely one that I really like a lot. The album cover, that is. Album is really good too. So the next one is a band that you might not expect because I don't talk much about them. I used to listen to them a lot when I was younger, especially this particular album. And I've always really liked what they did with this cover. And it's Come and Get It, Whitesnake's Come and Get It, with a white snake in an apple. And if you look at the back, it's pretty neat too. It's the back part of the apple. And the snake is hiding in the apple, I guess. Really, really good cover. Like that a lot. Another cover. This is from a band that I have not warmed up to. And they may be one of the few bands I don't really like. But I had a couple of their albums early on. And I'm hoping that maybe I'll get a little tone deaf and be able to listen to them a bit better. But I really enjoy this cover. Because to me, the first time I seen it, I thought of a tree. But then after a while, I began to realize this is probably more of an electrical impulse in a brain. It could be. I'm not sure what it is. I didn't give it a lot of deep thought, but I do like the way it looks. It's kind of bright. It's kind of energetic. So, of course, this is Graaff Generator. And the album, you'll have to actually, maybe I can see it inside. Oh, yeah. The Graaff Generator. This is Still Life. Yeah, sorry. Now I remember. Still Life. So I'm thinking this is probably Electrical Impulses. Pretty neat cover, though. Next up, from the Q's, and yes, it's Queen. And this is News of the World. I know it's kind of bland now, but when I first seen it when I was a kid, I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's a science fiction cover if ever there was one. Just fantastic. And if you look at the back again, it continues with the arms and legs throwing guys through the air. I always thought it was great. It was kind of a War of the Worlds thing to me. It's kind of bland now, but I still like it a lot. Anyway, so Queen's News of the World. So that's 5. Number 6 probably was my favorite album for a good 35 years. Well, maybe not. Is it 35? Yeah, I would say this became my favorite album around 85, 86, and stayed that way till about 2020. 35 years, yeah. So it was my favorite album for 35 years. A lot of it was because of the cover and fantastic music on it. Triumph's Just a Game. I like the back part too. And if you look inside, it's got like the back part of the cover as well. Just a super fantastic cover that is equally matched by the music that comes with it. This is a fantastic album. Like I said, for 35 years, it was probably my favorite album and only recently been bypassed. And this particular copy, as you might have noticed, it's kind of scratchy. Well, maybe you can't really see it. The cover is scratchy. The album itself is fine. There's no problem with the album. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to replace this. I've played this so much and taken it so many places that there's not really much left of it. The next album up is one that I got recently, and I liked this a lot when I first saw it. It was given to me as a Battle of the Bands, I think. It might have been in my Prog Wars. And it was in one of those things. It might have been given to me by Ben. I can't quite remember where I got it. I first seen it, but I instantly loved the cover of this, a face in a rose. And that makes perfect sense since I went to school for horticulture, and this just now every time I see a rose, I see this face. It's a great album too. I like it a lot. I just got it. I'm like ecstatic to get this and the first one, Indemnity. Yeah, just really good. Okay, so the next album up is the album that is my number 1 now. It's been my number 1 for about 3 years, but it's been in my top 5 favorite albums for decades now. And I'm not really sure why I like this cover so much. I think it's because it kind of really is synonymous with what's on the album. And we're talking about Styx's Pieces of 8. You got some women on the front here, and then you got the guys in the back, almost in the same kind of lineup, except for you have JY on the one corner where you don't have that on the album cover. Now the inside part of the cover does have a woman over here as well, which I guess would coincide with him on the back cover. And then you got the faces from the island, right? So yeah, solid album, solid. The music is my favorite, and the album covers are among my favorite. The next one shouldn't come as any real surprise. It comes from my favorite band, and is there any doubt which album I'm going to choose here? Really? This one. I have a strong affinity for owls. I love owls, and I think it comes from this album. Now, whenever I see an owl, this album comes to mind constantly. I love the blue, the yellow of his eyes, the overall size of the thing, and you can't really see this, but he's standing in an area where there's trees, and he's like a giant snowbird, right? The back's not so much. The inside cover doesn't really show anything either. It's just the front cover of the album, which is, I think, in my opinion, is their best album cover. Next out is one that from an artist who also did some Kiss stuff too, and Kiss was going to be in this list, but I had to choose 25, and they were one of the ones I took out, but they will be in my next list for sure. And so this is the album Rainbow Rising, which is the same artist that did Destroyer and A Love Gun. Anyways, this is a fantastic cover, and the album, I love it when you get an album that's the cover is fantastic and the music is equally fantastic. Doesn't that make it like you see it and you think that's the way it should be, right? And so far, almost all this has been that way. This next album, I'm not really sure what it is I like about this particular cover. I'm sure that they have other covers that are good too. But I, for some reason, I've always kind of liked the kind of, if you want, psychedelic look to this particular album. I don't even know what it is. It doesn't really look like anything, really. Pink Floyd's Saucer Full of Secrets. Interesting looking cover, though. I've always kind of enjoyed it. When I put this on, I get ready to relax and just listen, and just a fantastic cover, I think. Next up is one from a band that was among the first new bands I got into when I started this channel, and I've loved this cover. Not just the cover, I just love all the artwork that this band puts out for their covers. And this is Tab in the Ocean by Nectar. I'm not even sure what's going on in this picture, but whatever's going on in here is very science fiction-y, and I love it. The next one up, so how many is that anyways? 5, 10, 12. So we're going to start counting them now so I don't lose track here. So number 13, debut album from this band, a fantastic debut album. I think this cover speaks volumes. Yes, you knew this was going to happen. King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King. Great cover. And, even the back cover looks really good too. And just really, really interesting artwork. And the music is just as equally fantastic and interesting. Next up, from a heavy metal band. And this has always been my favorite cover of their albums. And probably my favorite album by them. Seems to go in hand. And I really like the kind of almost rigid kind of almost Marvel comic type look to it, and that's Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest. Yeah, they got some nice covers like this, but this one's my favorite. Next up, from a band that I love. They have so many styles of music, but every song is just so good. I love this band so much, and this, I think, is their best cover. Broadsword and the Beast. It's a nice picture of Ian Anderson there, dressed as a kind of warlord of some kind. Definitely this is kind of Lord of the Rings-ish, I guess. And you got these 4 faces in the corner. In each corner, one here, one here, one here, and then one down in this corner. And if you look at the faces closely, it's pretty obvious that those are the other 4 members of the band. Just really, really well done cover. I think just great. And I like the back part too. Still got the 4 faces, but there's just the writing there. Yeah. Next up, this was a hard one to choose from this band because I like almost all their covers. They've got some really intricate, really great covers, but I'm going to go back to this album just because of the strength of the character in the middle. Yes, Killers. Iron Maiden, Killers. I love the way Eddie looks here. This is fantastic at the beginning. It's almost female-ish. I'm almost attracted to it. No, just messing with you. Yeah, it's just a great cover, and they've got so many good ones. Definitely fantastic. So that's number 15, I believe now. Yep, 15. Maybe I can't count. I can't. That's number 16. So number 17 comes from a band that I've gotten into in the last year with the big album that was suggested to me, but I really like this album a lot, and I love this cover. Yeah, Hawkwind. And this is Warrior at the Edge of Time album. You've got like the back part continues it, so it's almost like a face. You've got this hair on top, which is the clouds, and 2 eyes, which are the 2 suns or moons, and almost the eye sockets there, and then you got a nose section here in the middle, which is open. Yeah, very, very reminiscent of a face, but I just really like the kind of science fiction look to it. And then the little person on the horse here. Wow, it's a great album cover. Next up, number 18. Yeah. Yep, number 18. Not maybe their most intricate cover, and certainly not, maybe it kind of reminds me of that Yes album at the beginning that we did, the Relayer. It's kind of a darker album, but I've always loved this cover, Wind and the Wuthering. It's almost like you're in the middle of a blizzard or something. And then you have all the birds on the back here. The back part is actually, I think, better than the front part, but they're both very good. And you got a nice shot of the same back cover here on the inside. And this album is probably worn fairly good. Man, it's not too bad. This was one of my first 2 Genesis albums. This one and Trick of the Tail. Both of them, I need to get new copies, but so many other things to buy. You can't just buy what you want all the time. So this one's a new one. And this is number 19. This is a new group for me. This is my first album by them. I alternating between really liking what I hear and then some days I don't like it at all. I don't know why that is, why that happens to me, or why I'm like that. And I think it's just mood oriented. Some days I'm in a better frame, other days not such a good frame. Depends on how you hear it. But the album cover is the one that brought me to this album, to this group, and that's a standard thing with me. I will buy an album for the cover over something I know is good. I'm not sure why I'm like that, but I am. And I just love this cover. And the back and the middle, it's got 3 parts to it. It's just so intricate, so good. And the music's good too. And there's a lot of music on here. Maybe that's why some days I'm not in the mood for a lot of music. But I really like this cover by the Flower Kings. A newer band for me. This is my first album by them, my first experience with them overall. And I know there's a ton more to go, but this is a start, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so that's number 19. I believe this is number 20. Yep. I had to choose an album cover from this band. They have to have one on here. Their album covers are so good, and there's so many of them. I had to choose one, which wasn't easy. I decided, because I'm in that kind of gray and white frame of mind, I chose this one, Planets. Such an intricate cover. Always interesting cover. I like the back part even better. And this album was on my play charts not too long ago. Good album. I do like some of their other stuff a little better, but I think I like this album cover the best of them all. Okay, so number 21 is an older one funny, if you'd asked me this when I got it, I would have said, that's garbage, get rid of it, I don't ever want to see it again. And that's because I was disappointed because it wasn't the album I'd asked for. And we all know this story. But anyways, this is Boston's debut album. A little bit simplistic for nowadays, but back then it was awesome, man. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And, you know, the back cover is just as good. You got more of those guitar spaceships with their flames. Yeah, this is so thought-provoking. Such a great album, too. Next up was my first by this band. And like so many bands, I went through this period of time where I was in my late teens, where I was branching out into a lot of new music, and you know, your income is limited at that time period of your life, so you got to choose what you want. So I often choose bands, and then I would get into those bands and I want to have more of their stuff. So bands that I had gotten albums from, there's 3 or 4 of them like this. There might even be more. Well, there's at least 3 or 4 anyways that I got an album by them. I liked it a lot, but I never pursued it because I needed that money for those other bands. And that's what I think happened. And we're talking about this album, Blue Oyster Cult's Fire of Unknown Origin. I really like the cover. I like the back part too. And I love all the songs on this album. And it's only grown. My affection for it has only grown. When I first heard it, it was a little bit different. Took me a while to get in. There was some songs on it I liked right away, and then gradually over time a little more, and then more. And then I went through a period where I didn't listen to it at all. And then when I started this channel again, I immediately started listening to this album again. And now I've got a lot of their stuff, and they've got some really good albums. And this album cover is fantastic. It's still my favorite of their covers, but that's the story of the Blue Oyster Cult. This is Fire of Unknown Origin. So the next one comes from a band in my group of 7, a band that deserves to be noticed, and you know what's coming if you're following it by letters. And it was tough to choose, but I think it had to be this album cover, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. There was a couple of other ones that were challenging it, but I think what it came down to is the 2 other albums that I considered, because I like their album covers quite a bit, I decided against because I like the music on here so much. So anyway, so you've got that, and then the best part is the back part is still almost as good, maybe better. So you've got this kind of red demonic view, like representing evil, and then you've got this blue kind of representing God and good things. I think that's what it means. So that's my number 23. Number 24. Yeah, always love this cover. It's the artwork, I think. It encapsulates the band. It's all psychedelic. It has lots of interest and intrigue. You always see things when you look at it that you don't see all the time. And that's Revolver. Yeah, the Beatles Revolver. Got to be on this list. Definitely my favorite Beatles cover. Yeah, I don't think anybody's even really close, but it's really good. And then the last one, I only have one album by them, but I really, really like it a lot, and the cover is awesome. It's just totally awesome, and the back parts are really good too. So, Amorphous Androgynous and Peter Hamill, that is an awesome cover. I do not even know what's going on there, but it's awesome. And then you have this back moonscape here, and then if you look inside, you have this desert scape. So it's just such a good album too, you know. And that's the thing. I think the thing that sets these albums as my favorites is, yeah, there's other albums by those groups that I like just quite a bit, but for some reason, in most cases here, it's the music that brings the album cover up too. So I don't know if you guys experience that, but sometimes you'll look at an album cover and you'll love it, and then the music just makes the album cover even better. So I'm just going to reiterate them once. So we have Amorphous Androgynous and Peter Hamill, and this album is called Grace, I can never remember. Oh, damn. Here we go, messing it up. Persuaded ourselves we are immortal. I knew it was something like that, and I wanted to get it right. And then next one, Beatles, Revolver. Number 3, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Number 4, Blue Oyster Cult's Fire of Unknown Origin. Number 5, Boston's debut album. Number 6, Eloy's Planets. Number 6, is that number 6? Yeah. Number 7, The Flower Kings. What is the name of this album? I never know the name of this album. I don't even think I've ever looked before. Oh, By Royal Decree. I did not know that. So By Royal Decree by The Flower Kings, that's number 7. Number 8, Wind in the Wuthering from Genesis. Genesis got some good covers too. Number 7. Number 8. Number 9, Hawkwind's Warrior at the Edge of Time. Iron Maiden's Killers is number 10. Is that it? 10? Why can't I can't keep count, eh? Nope. That was number 9. This is number 10. Broadsword and the Beast by Jethro Tull. Number 11, Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. Number 12, In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. Number 13, Nectar's A Tab in the Ocean. Number 14, Pink Floyd's Saucer Full of Secrets. Number 15, Rainbow Rising. Number 16, Rush's Fly By Night. Number 17, Styx's Pieces of 8. Number 17, am I right? Supertramp's, what is the name of this album anyways? Is this their this is not their debut album, is it? I don't think it is. No, their debut album has a title to it. Why does this one not? Maybe it is the debut. Okay, it doesn't have a title, so maybe this is their debut album, but I don't think it is. I think this is their second album, but it has no title to it. So if anybody knows why that is, I'd be interested in knowing, or I could go look it up, I guess, if I had to. And now I lost track. Yeah, so that was number 19. I apologize. Get carried away and get lost. Triumph's Just a Game, number 20. Queen's News of the World, number 21. Graaff Generators Still Life, number 22. Number 23 is Whitesnake's Come and Get It. Number 24 is Wobbler Hinterland. And the last but not the least is Yes's Relayer. Yeah, so some definite fantastic art and covers on a lot of great albums. And we'll probably do a part B. I think I'll give it a rest for a week and then maybe do a part B, because I got something else in mind next week, so I may go with that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as it was to do. It was fun to do, and as much as I screwed up, I still liked doing it. So anyways, you have yourself a good evening. Please like and subscribe. It's much appreciated, and we will see you next Wednesday for another video favorites. Take care.